Welcome to the Berks Homes podcast, the business of building homes. I'm Katie and I'm here with my brother Ben, and today we are going to be talking about metrics and accountability. Our terminology for metrics is probably going to come out as scorecard a lot during this conversation. So metrics and scorecard are interchangeable as we go about this whole topic. So, Ben, let's talk about our scorecard first and why are we even talking about this today?
Yeah, executive team, what's EO stand for again?
Executive operations.
Operations.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. That threw me for a loop. I didn't even know that.
Welcome to the team.
So our scorecard is made up of 8 different metrics, ones that we track each week. Last week we talked about not getting beyond 7 days without looking at these numbers intentionally, and these are mostly leading indicators. Well, all of them
Yes, that's
are.
what the...
Yes, and metrics on the other side, measurables are the lagging ones, right? So for us, we have a couple key components that we really can't talk about anything without looking at land first. So do we have the raw goods to meet our goals or not? That's the first number. That's one that I keep a close eye on. And you and I are both all over the scorecard.
Yeah.
So between sales and operations, most of the numbers are ones that we are accountable for. And I think that's because the departments that we lead are the ones that are on the front lines,
generating the information to create those numbers. And that's the beauty of what we're looking at, is it's a math equation based on all of the information that all of the teams are providing every week. So that number of lots that are available is a combination of every region, a few different positions in the region that kind of come together to say exactly what type and what state in the process that each lot is in, and that feeds into what that number is. We can stick with land for a while just to give some context for how we use metrics and how we use numbers. So if we're talking about what it means for each employee to be tied to a number, right?
Yeah,
that's
the goal.
The goal is that everybody has a number that they are accountable for. And we should probably reframe what accountability means to us before we go any further. It's basically saying, if you're accountable for a number, you are given the very clear picture of exactly what you need to do to be successful.
Yeah, it's always being able to define success quickly.
Yes.
Based on some sort of metric.
Oh, you said that really well. Is defining success. I think that very often it's perceived as being how to, make sure you don't fail. But
accountability is kind of like a dirty word, a little bit. I think in some people's mind, it's like somebody kind of, leaning over them, looking over their shoulder constantly. Like, are you doing your job? Did you mess up? And it's totally different in this thought process, the one that we subscribe to, which is clarity of what you need to do is the ultimate benchmark in being successful. So it's like, if I need to generate 1 widget a day and I'm always hitting 2, I am good. Yes. I'm doing my job.
And it gives us it's a report card that's saying whether or not we are being, responsible predictors of information, if we're setting the right goals. So if we're not meeting goals, it doesn't mean that someone isn't doing a good job. It could just mean that we were not tracking it the way we were supposed to. It could mean, we thought that this position's capacity was 2 widgets a day, but truly it's only 1, and that is on us. We have to make sure that we're predicting properly the outcomes and the deliverables. So it's just a way to check our organization and its efficiencies also.
Our planning, our predictability. Predictability is crucial to any business.
Yeah.
And we pride ourselves on being predictable in what we lay out. As we move forward, trying to lay out what will ultimately be a 3-year budget instead of, if you think about it now, most businesses operate, they're hopeful to have a final business plan for the next calendar year by January 1st. That's like good news. We want to have a business plan for 3 years.
Yeah, there's a lot of reasons for that, too.
Go ahead.
One is just the life cycle of our product is generally 3 years minimum.
Yeah.
When it comes to raw dirt to finished home.
Yeah.
So we have to have a much longer runway to be predicting these things.
We can't just keep the factory open for another shift. It's if you think it might be too late, it is.
Yes, we're already behind always.
Yeah, there's always like a cycle that you're too late on. Everything just gets pushed, and it's a moving target business in general. And a good example of possibly changing metrics happened in your department last year with web traffic. You had a pretty high number to achieve, and you were consistently hitting it most of the time, but it was not necessarily the traffic that you wanted. Is that right?
That's exactly right.
And
yeah.
then it lowered, and now even when we don't hit it, we're still converting at a much higher rate.
Well, that's the hope is as things, the nice part about the scorecard is that you adjust to what your new goals are. So we knew each year we're probably going to be increasing the web traffic that we need. But this year we didn't increase even though our goals for sales increase because we are getting better at converting that traffic with a new website, with different, more organic marketing, less top of the funnel, more middle to the bottom. It's definitely a different strategy now than what we had last year, and it's wildly effective just over the past 6 to 8 weeks, which is exciting.
Yeah, but for example, somebody on your team that might be like hyper-focused on that number and may have been discouraged at one time if it wasn't hit. Now you can calibrate that and be like, actually, no, I mean, we have a different paradigm now. This is why we can lower it. And so now they can be successful with a different metric that's, lower than it was.
Well, and that's a great thing to highlight about the scorecards and metrics in general is that every number is a narrative. Every number has a story behind it. You can't just take a number at face value. There's so much behind it and why we chose the goal that we did. So it's almost like you need a white paper behind every metric that you're tracking and how different positions in the company feed into what that number is. That's kind of what I was saying before with land is the clarity we get to provide for each person is how their number and their position plays into that ultimate story.
Yeah, it's like, here's your piece of the puzzle.
Yeah.
And why. I've been saying define success a lot because I feel like it's just relevant, not just in like for meetings too.
Yeah.
What's success look like at the end of this meeting? Why are we having the meeting?
Right.
And then you just think about what success at the end of this meeting is usually solving a question or clarifying something.
Yeah.
But defining success for the individual means that they can really get comfortable with that number and the narrative behind it and how they fit in.
Right.
And for us, I'm looking at the scorecard for the EO right now, and then we have the person at the table who's accountable for that number. It's our job on a weekly basis to tell the story.
Yeah.
The narrative behind why, for instance, if we have a goal of X starts a week and it's low, what is
happened?
Yeah, what is it?
Yeah.
Why? We mostly look at trends. We're not going to make whipsaw judgments 1 week when it's just 1 week out of, we go back 13 weeks. So it has to be significant. But it's our job to tell that narrative down to the, frontline level if need be. So we have to dig in, either prior to the meeting or afterwards
Mm-hmm.
to be prepared to tell that story.
Yeah, and the really cool thing is if you come prepared to explain why a number is off potentially. So we didn't start as many as we wanted to this week. Well, that's because we don't have enough excavators in one region. Okay, well, that's an issue that we need to discuss. Can we share resources? Do we need to change the way that we're onboarding trades? There's a whole conversation that can come out of why we didn't hit a metric.
There's a host of opportunities to brainstorm then too.
Oh, yeah.
Because then you get the power of the group talking about, the issue. A lot of times there's not huge overlap, one EO member in their department, but usually there's a little bit and they can offer suggestions, or it's something that we put on the board for IDS to
it does
about.
Get a little more effective at the departmental or the regional discussions because they're hands-on and they're able to problem solve and create solutions for that number. We're kind of last people to even hear about it sometimes.
Yeah, we don't want to solve those problems on their behalf. We just want to make sure they have the tools and resources to make decisions.
Well, and that's part of it that can come up out of tracking these metrics is we cannot be effective. We can't meet this goal if we don't have this report or if we don't have this training, or, that's another piece that I have seen come out of these scorecard conversations.
And that's another thing that's just absolutely crucial to our business is reporting. Timely reporting, accurate reporting. Mm-hmm. There are so many pieces of data that are involved in a transaction. Maybe not even a transaction, but just operations in general. And everything is digital, so there's these fields floating around, and you're building these suite of reports to show you a snapshot in time to either solve a problem or just know how you're doing. And we're always tweaking those reports. We're saying, okay, there's this report that I want to understand the job costs. Well, if I had one more column with this set of data, then that makes everything different. And so it's just this constant refinement of that. And you'll always hear people, well, if I had this report now, you just can't, you can't move at the speed of light with development team and all that.
We have a lot, though. They're doing a great job.
They are.
Pumping that stuff
they are.
Out. It's very helpful.
It's very impressive.
Yeah.
But what do you think is the key to connecting that accountability piece to the numbers? Like, where does that become really, really important in somebody's job?
Step one is, again, the clarity, defining the success. So you're saying, I am going to have this responsibility. That's like if you're taking ownership for your own metric.
Yeah.
You're saying, okay, I am responsible for producing this. So what do I need to do it? What training, tools, whatever? What do I need to do? I have it? Okay, yes, I do. Then you have it's an open book test.
Yes.
You have the answer of how to do well.
Right.
And that's, to me, the key is making sure that we have each of those numbers and metrics defined for every position so people can feel good about their production.
And I'm going to speak to the management side of it a little bit because I think that's really critical. We really try not to be punitive in these metrics and making sure that we test them well before rolling them out and saying, this is your new thing that you have to be accountable for. It's something that we want to see trends on. So, A, it's attainable. Yeah. Physically attainable. And B, it's something that they can get excited about and outperform every once in a while. Yeah. I think of our superintendents who probably have the most metrics in the company that are, widely defined, publicized and defined. And we have kind of set these interim periods of not turning them on, but watching them in parallel over a quarter or 6 months. Right now, we're about to roll out the budget versus variance piece of their scorecard. And it's just to see what they are able to, kind of influence during the construction process. Because let's face it, we do purchase orders. So when the job's released, we're assuming generally that those purchase orders go out, and not only does the trade or vendor agree with that price and quantity and all of that for that job, but that there's not going to be any issues, right? So that number should be pretty small on what the superintendent can influence.
Yeah.
But we've been tracking it for a long, long time to make sure that once we roll it out and say, you guys have to keep it within this percentage, that it's attainable and something that they can achieve and quite honestly get bonused on if they do a great job, but not be punitive in the sense of, hey, this is construction also. We don't work in a climate controlled factory and there's only so much you can do.
And the interesting part about that is not just the testing and the comparison to know if we're making it attainable, but it's also the collaboration with the people that are doing the work.
Yeah.
When we're setting the goals and the metrics to say, how do you feel about this? Do you buy into this being the thing that you produce? Is this in your role? Is this being the most effective? So getting feedback as we're setting some of this up has been huge, because we sometimes, not being in the field a lot as much as we may have been at different times in our career, or even in a region at this point. I mean, now that we're decentralized, we're further and further removed from the day-to-day. And so sometimes I'm relying on my old experiences.
Oh, absolutely.
To set what I think is a good metric. Well, we used to, whatever. Now that has to get thrown out the window at this point.
Yeah.
There has to be more of a collaboration with what's actually happening now, and take that into consideration when we're setting goals for achieving the next step.
It's like almost pre-COVID, post-COVID.
Yeah,
a little
good
bit.
Way to say
I mean,
it.
that really, it's just changed so much. And I always think of back in the day, your top superintendents would be able to run X amount of jobs, no problem.
Yeah.
And they just can't anymore because they're more spread out. There's a lot more windshield time, and they're also dealing with subcontractors and trades that are spread out more. Their workforce is thin.
Yeah.
You can't call a guy and say, I need one of your guys to come over in the next 2 hours and finish this. I'm on 3 other jobs right now that are just as important. Yeah. So there's little anecdotal things that you do have to reprogram in your mind and make sure that you are getting that frontline feedback all the way to the people who are doing the job each day.
I mean, especially thinking about the dynamic of the market in general, like demographically, the way any employee in the entire company has to interact with a customer is different now than it used to be. Expectations are so different. The world has changed tremendously in terms of technology and communication and the expectation of service. And we have to be able to adjust to that and get that feedback of what it's like now, because our customers are getting younger and younger, and we're getting older and older.
Yeah.
And so we have to keep a pulse on who we're serving at this point, and making sure that we're adjusting expectations of performance around that also, because that's an outside factor that needs to be taken into consideration.
What are we, geriatric millennials? The old millennials. We had that crossover time, and it's extremely different. I mean, can you imagine our children 10, 15 years, and they will be like, if there's not an app for it, they won't buy a house.
They will.
I can only imagine.
Laugh us the whole way home.
Yeah.
Like, get out of here.
You're calling me? I'm not ready to have a conversation yet.
Right.
It's just, and it's already changed. We're already there. And for you on the marketing experience side, that hit you first.
Yeah.
Right. And so the training has to evolve. So you're sales training from 2019 might be slightly irrelevant now.
Exactly. Yeah.
Which is kind of crazy.
Right. But even down to, to every customer-facing employee has to be feeling the impact of it.
Oh, yeah, in the field, the superintendents, everybody. And it's just a challenge. We're all dealing with it. Everybody out there is dealing with it in their business to a certain degree. And, I was in Starbucks the other day. I don't really go to Starbucks that often, but it was amazing to me it was totally misrepresented. The vast majority of the orders were takeout orders. There was 15 drinks lined up.
Yeah.
And I was the only one in line.
Because you're old.
Yeah, because I'm like a boomer. So I'm walking through and I'm like, what? Why are there 40 drinks over there? And people are just filing in from outside, just walking in, not talking to anybody and leaving.
Use your app, bro.
And I was like, man, I should have ordered ahead. But it was just funny. It's just an example. But anyway, getting back to the overall scorecard, what is your favorite number to track? Maybe not on our scorecard, but just in general. What is the one that you go to right away to make you feel good?
It's not one, it's the conversions.
Okay.
From website to lead to appointment to sale.
And
I'm obsessively staring at that.
It's beautifully predictable.
Yes.
And so going in that hierarchy, web traffic, once you hit a number, you kind of know how many sales we're going to have.
Once we hit the lead to appointment is the most predictable.
Right.
So once we have the conversion for the lead to appointment held, then I'm pretty good with knowing what we're going to have that like 2 to 3 weeks later.
Yeah, it's always consistent. Has that time span gotten faster or slower?
It's definitely gotten faster since COVID, no question. It was much longer before for us. I think that had to do a little bit with our product mix, the more efficient floor plans that we sell, townhomes, duplexes, and, our new lineup that is speeding it up also.
Yeah.
Because there's less decision fatigue during the initial process. It is what it is. And if somebody wants to buy a house, they're buying it. And that has definitely condensed the upfront time it takes.
And our attached product, like duplexes and townhomes, most of those choices are very narrow, if any, depending on the cycle time, where it's at in the job. We try to usually sell completed or close to completion on those
spec packets at least, even if it hasn't been started yet. The idea would be that it's spec'd out.
Yeah. And making changes is problematic for a number of reasons.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that I always look at those numbers too, because it makes you feel good. Well, for me, it's like two things. I always like to understand customer satisfaction, just because I'm like a Enneagram 9, and I like people to be happy.
Yeah,
that's important. And obviously, if you're pleasing your customers, there is an eventual benefit down the line in terms of future sales.
Sure.
It's just very strongly correlated. For me, it's always customer satisfaction and then days under construction. So days under construction can be a double-edged sword because there's a standard that we have. However, in terms of speed, which directly influences our financing costs if we're borrowing money to build the sticks and bricks on the house. It also directly influences customer satisfaction. If it goes too long, we want to be super predictable in our cycle times.
Yeah.
The lower the better. The lower meaning as close to our normal goal as possible.
We don't want to cut corners. We want to hit that number of knowing. We know how many days it takes to build the quality product that we want to pump out there. So that's the number we want to hit.
Right. And if you're actually beating that number, it's not good because of that quality.
Yeah,
there is such a thing as moving too fast. So it's that fine balance, but it influences a tremendous amount of other data
Yeah.
all over the place. I'm only thinking of financing because financing is, double what it used to cost. So it's something that we have to keep an eye on. But ultimately, it also helps with if there's giant fluctuations in days under construction. One time you're 20 days over expected, the other time you're right on. It really affects our even flow.
Yeah.
Because in a perfect world, it's like that factory mentality of smooth and steady. You can predict for the trades and vendors a lot better in that manner. So you can say, oh, you're going to have a house every X amount of weeks. When the days under construction vary widely, then you're throwing a monkey wrench into the whole system, and the subcontractor base is going to feel it at the extremes on either end. It's feast or famine.
Right.
They're gonna have 3 houses to start on the same day, and then none for weeks.
Right.
Stuff like that. So it's really important to be consistent in that manner. And so I always look at those two. And then I love, just generally speaking, starts. That's just like action. That means a house was dug.
Right.
And that leads to so many good things. Starts influences sales.
Yeah.
There's a psychological component to somebody driving into a community and seeing 4 houses under construction as opposed to none.
Right.
And there's excitement not just from a customer standpoint, but also on our end, where it's just like, okay, now we're into it. Stuff's flying.
Yeah.
There's nothing better than going out on a job site and seeing 4 or 5 houses in different stages of construction and all kinds of people swarming. And, it's just fun. I just love that. So those are mine.
That's interesting to think about too. That start changes like you're saying, the momentum, but almost the lives of everybody involved.
Oh yeah.
And you've been on the job site and doing framing for years, just knowing that you're going to see the same people popping up here and there. You're kind of all on the same team. And if it's like a really hopping community, it's really cool to have so many people that you're just gonna, be able to, they're coming right behind me. Oh, that's right. They're going to be done right before I'm going to see this person.
It's a groove.
Right?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. It's fun. And from a trade-based standpoint, you love to know that predictability. Like there's nothing more important than knowing where you're going to be roughly when.
Yeah.
And there were times, now when I was framing, it was the late 90s, so it was, I don't know if I'd call it a similar market, but it was on the upswing like we have been. So in key areas, if you started a community, like you were going to be there.
Yeah.
If you, as a framer, all you care about is foundations. And so there was a couple summers I barely left an entire community. That's how busy it was.
Right. Like where?
Penwood.
Oh, that, right.
Yeah, and that was beautiful because that was like a couple miles from home. But
right.
I was there for, 2 months out of 3. So that really helps our partnerships as well. Predictability, I keep saying that word, but
that's the point of all of this.
If we can basically tell employees, customers, and our trades what is going to happen over and over again, that's winning.
Yeah.
That's winning.
Yep.
And I think to tie it back to the original way we started the conversation, predictability is winning, especially for our coworkers. They know what they can do to influence an outcome. And if they do a really good job, that metric will be exceeding, their goal.
Yes.
Like it's that there's something very tangible about it that they can at least know if they're doing something really well. And it's just all based on math.
So we love metrics. We love prediction. We love the scorecard. And I know not everyone has a metric in the company yet. That's, I would say, one of the harder things to come up with is finding a predictable measurement for every role. It's a little bit of a struggle. So If you are one of those people that do not have one and you'd like to have a conversation about it, please.
Yes. Yeah, you
Bring
can come. I mean, I
Absolutely.
think 9 out of 10 managers would happily allow each person to throw ideas out there and create their own metrics because generally you're the most qualified to do it.
Right. It should be a collaborative effort in every department that you kind of come to an agreement.
Right. Yeah, a lot of stuff hasn't changed since the beginning of time in terms of if you're a great home builder, what are you going to be doing well? However, all the stuff that we talked about, technology, different things have influenced the how you get there to be successful.
Well, let's define that really quickly. So the things that are important to us in the success of the organization are customer satisfaction. So are we providing our product in a way that is pleasing to the customer? So customer satisfaction is huge. The timing, you know, how long and how efficiently we produce that home. The profitability of the home.
Right.
And if we can build more homes by getting land.
Yeah.
So I guess I should say it in order. Land, the time it takes to build it. So it's like when you sell it, when you start it, when you close it.
Yep.
The profitability of it, and if we provided a good customer experience.
Yeah.
Those are the things that are important. So if you are trying to find a metric, try to tie it into one of those things.
Yeah, it's the whole life cycle. It's the entire life cycle of everything. And then, and profitability is that lagging indicator at the end of the day.
Yeah.
That all of these things, we're constantly calibrating what points towards high profitability. And there's other things, you know, outside influences that cannot be controlled that might lead to a variance in net profitability at the end. But in terms of the land, construction, sales, customer satisfaction, all of that stuff, we're not considering outside influences.
Right.
We're considering things that we can control.
Yes.
You know, we're not talking about the interest rate on vertical financing. We're not talking about the crazy market stuff, you know, mortgage rates, all that stuff. We don't focus on that because we can't control it. So I think it was important for us to talk about how much we value this stuff and how it literally drives the business. If we couldn't see this, we would be panicking. You know what I mean?
Oh,
like,
absolutely.
When we don't have visibility, your gut instinct is only so good. And that's hard for us.
Yes.
Because I don't naturally want to always believe the narrative that a number says. I want to think about my anecdotal experience first.
I feel like it was a learning curve for us to rely on metrics.
Yeah.
You know, but once I got my mind wrapped around it, I can never go back.
Yeah. But you know what's funny? So speaking about Dad and his the way that he's operated for many, many years, he always knew that there was a lot of importance in understanding certain things.
Yeah.
You know, but he wasn't always like
A report
out there.
guy.
Well, he wasn't always out there trying to network with an industry to understand, you know, what's important. He developed it on his own.
Oh, right.
What, you know, if X is this, then we're good.
Yeah.
If this, and he had his own things, but they've changed as well.
Yeah.
So sometimes when we're going through the financials side by side with him, it doesn't necessarily pencil out because the market's changed. Things have changed. Now, more than ever, we're, like I said, very reliant on this stuff and can't operate blindly.
Yeah.
We need this in front of us constantly to recalibrate.
That's so true.
It's just changed.
Yeah. Well, I think that's metrics and accountability.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, that's good. So you have you're the MVP person this week.
Yes. So today I would like to shout out Aaron as our MVP.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
She is the executive assistant.
Yeah.
Sorry, Aaron.
She keeps us all straight.
You're way more than that to me, which is why I am shouting you out.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how she keeps track of as much as she does. She keeps our entire executive operations team running in terms of all of our meetings and reports, metrics, all this stuff that we're talking about. She's the one that gets this in front of us every single week. There's a lot of people that pull it all together and everything, but she is the one that is consistently keeping track of everything for us.
Yeah, we walk into our EO meeting on a Wednesday morning, and she hands us this nice folder with all the up-to-date stuff, agendas, perfectly timely information, and then we go through the meeting and create all kinds of havoc, and we say we need 4 meetings to come out of this, and they're
magically
all scheduled without conflicts.
Yes.
And it's pretty incredible, and I know on Mike's behalf, he would not survive without Aaron.
Well, I feel the same way.
Yeah.
And she just has such a good pulse on what's going on with everyone in the organization and is just on top. I don't know how she keeps track of everything. She just keeps track of absolutely everything. I'm just super impressed by it, and thank you so much.
And she's just a pleasure to work beside.
Exactly.
She's just got a great demeanor. So yeah, that's a good one. We're gonna I mean, if you think about it, we could go 180 some weeks and say every person in the organization.
By the time we get to 180, there'll be 250 people.
Yeah. But these are layups right now. So easy because of people we work with all the time.
So, do you have a challenge?
So I do. It's kind of, I don't know if I would say it's really clear, but I was super interested last week to understand a piece of somebody's job. Mm-hmm. Like, how do they do exactly like a mini step in the core process?
Yeah.
How do you move the ball from here to here, and it's at the feet of this position of the business analyst? And so I was able to have a couple conversations and also pull some information that was documented on their job and job description, all that stuff. And I was just like, I felt really good about adding that knowledge to have because like you said, we don't know how the process works all the way out to the regional level. Like, we don't know everything anymore. It's just too big. So gaining that knowledge was like really perfect timing for me. Because I felt like it's going to tie into a lot of other stuff that I'm working on.
Oh, okay.
My challenge is for everybody out there to just take a little piece of somebody else's job that they might overlap with and really understand it, seek to understand exactly all the things that person does, or maybe just a piece of it that overlaps with you so you can do your job better.
That's great.
Where we all have blind spots and we might not even know there's a report for that.
Yeah.
So that's my challenge, is just to look, on either side of you where you are in the process and make sure that you go find a piece of information that you didn't have before and really understand it well.
Right. That's really good. Imagine if you just go talk to someone about that and say, hey, just so you know, after you're done with that piece, this is what I do. And then that person goes, oh, well, I can just give you X, Y, Z.
Yes.
Imagine.
Yeah. Maybe they could, set you up for future success by adding a little piece of information each time.
Or I'm already doing it and it's right here.
Yeah.
Who knows? Like that's a great challenge.
Well, the efficiency, and we talked about this last week when we had our liaison meeting of the director level people who are kind of setting policies, that they would reach out to each other more and understand so they can train their dotted line positions in the region better. Yeah. And so I think that core process, I mean, it could be just as simple as seeing what the bullet points are. I'm not talking about diving deep. I'm just saying seek to understand somebody else's job a little better that you interact with.
That's great. Okay.
Took me 20 minutes.
I did not declutter my car.
I did.
did my closet at home, though.
Oh, well, that's good.
Yeah, so who knows? I might not ever touch my car.
I mean, I didn't wash my car, but I'm pretty clean right now. So.
All right. And as always, please email either one of us with any feedback.
Yeah, getting these emails has been really nice.
It really is,
Like,
thank you, guys.
We feel like a bunch of idiots, but it's been nice to hear feedback from people.
Exactly. So keep them coming. Thank you, and we will be back next week.
All right. See ya.
Have a good one.